Venues, vendors, budgets, and more. A lot goes into planning a wedding. If that's what you're doing, stay tuned because tonight I have a wedding expert about wedding planning.
Welcome to Weddings with Zita. Here's your host and producer, Zita Christian.
Welcome to the wedding show where you'll be inspired by the experts. My expert tonight is Nancy Goldstein. She is the owner of Amazing Celebrations in Glastonbury, Connecticut. Nancy, thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure.
This is so much fun. I've always wanted to know about wedding planning. As an officiant myself, I know one certain phase of the wedding, but I know there's so much more that goes into it. And I want to get into a lot of detail, but let's start off with maybe just a bullet rundown. What are some of the big things that a wedding planner does for a couple?
Probably the biggest thing is budgeting, helping clients work within their means and to also work within their vision for the event. We find the best venues, the best vendors. We negotiate contracts. We really make sure that the client meets and exceeds their vision for their most special day.
So I gather from that, there are probably some things that you do that a client doesn't even realize they need to pay attention to. You know, it's hard when you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So what about the couple who has booked a wedding at a venue where they have a wedding coordinator? Is that enough? Or what? Maybe another question would be, what is it that you do that's in addition to what an on-site coordinator would do?
Well, most wedding planners work very well with an on-site wedding or sales coordinator, and their role primarily is to work for the logistics of the venue, of the reception, and to focus on food and staffing. And the difference really is that an experienced wedding planner will go with clients to meetings with all the vendors. They often will meet with them to pick out invitations, to look for dresses, to handle the hotel accommodations. So it's really a full encompassing management package that most wedding planners will do. So in addition to the venue, they're dealing with every other aspect of the event.
You work like a general contractor.
Absolutely.
Like somebody who's building a house. So you have oversight of all of the various pieces. I didn't know that. What about, and this might get a little sensitive, but what about the couple who says, I have a friend or a family member who's going to take care of everything or run the rehearsal or help with all of those other details? Good idea, bad idea?
I wouldn't say good or bad. I don't think that that's the best idea.
Okay.
I think what happens a lot of times we'll hear a client will say, I have a friend who's a photographer. My sister wants to do the flowers. My aunt is going to make the cake. Sometimes those things work out well,
yeah.
But you really want your friends and family to enjoy the event. You don't want them being worried about taking pictures or delivering a cake. And very often they are not working in the best interest of the client. We oversee their budget. We keep track of everything that they're doing. So it's fine for someone to offer help, but I don't always think it's the best if they're really taking the role of the event planner.
That's a good point. And I would think, excuse me, from what you said just prior to that, a friend or family member who wants to contribute in some major way to the wedding, they're not necessarily going to even think about the necessity of coordinating with everyone else. I think a lot of times we think that this is the separate piece and this is the separate piece. But there is going to be some flow, whether it's color or timing or some type of theme or something else. So I can see where the family friend idea would be nice and maybe be an honor to that family or friend to participate in that way in the ceremony, but in the long run there's a price to be paid for everything.
Well, we very often work with clients where they do have a relative or a friend who is providing something. Sometimes it's a cake, sometimes it's the accommodation baskets for the hotel. It's very wonderful that they can do that, but typically we will still coordinate.
Okay, so they work with you still?
Correct.
Okay.
We had a wedding where a friend did the cake. Well, they didn't realize that the cake was very heavy and it was going to go on a small table. So we make sure that we're overseeing every detail. Is it the right size table? Is it going to handle the weight? Does it have to be refrigerated? Is it going to be outside? All the things. Is it going to be cut? Is it a fake cake? Is it a real cake? All the questions that we ask, that we would normally ask whether we're handling it or not.
Well, what about, there's another type of coordinator, the day of. So not somebody who, like in your position, is working with the couple from the beginning to the end, but the person who comes in, the coordinator who comes in just on the day of. What's the difference between what that person does and what you do? And I'm already getting some idea based on what you just said.
Part of what we offer to our clients, obviously, is day of event coordination, but that is just a very small piece of what we do. We are actually with the couple from the minute they get up until they are leaving for their honeymoon. So we are on site at every event we do. We're overseeing everything. A day of event coordinator, hopefully what they're offering the client is really several months prior of coordination, including the day of, because I think if someone is showing up the day of, they're like a traffic cop. They don't know who all the players are. They don't know the personalities. They don't know the logistics of the venue. They don't really know who all the vendors are. And they're really trying to get up to speed in a very short period of time.
That's an important distinction you made there a minute ago about knowing all the vendors. And I want to get back to that in a couple minutes. But I want to share some photos first with you and the audience, because Nancy sent me some photos ahead of time from some weddings. And I was astounded at all of the various avenues, the various parts of the wedding planning that you get involved in. So I want to take a look first at one that's called First Look. So for the benefit of those in the audience who might not be familiar with this whole concept of First Look, what this is the couple having photographs taken actually before the ceremony, correct?
So it's an interesting concept. When I got married over 30 years ago, we basically missed the entire cocktail reception. We didn't have the first look. We took all the formal photos after the ceremony and before the reception. What some couples are choosing to do is to do this first look. So this can be before the ceremony. We try to make it a reveal, like a grand reveal, so the groom is seeing the bride for the first time. We have the photographer there. We're able to get a lot of the formal shots done prior to the ceremony, so as soon as the ceremony is over, the bride and groom is able to go right into their cocktail reception and really enjoy the full event. A lot of people still like the traditional aspect of walking down the aisle and the groom seeing the bride for the first time. But this first look really it's a fun element that we include, and this way the couple gets to share some time before the ceremony.
I can excuse me, I can so see the pros and cons of doing it that way. So I think it's something that warrants a whole conversation in itself. But I want to get to the next photo. This one, including your children. So what advice do you give to couples when they want to include? So how old do you think these little boys are?
This is probably one of my favorite pictures ever. I think they were about 5 or 6. They were brothers. And what I always try to advise clients is, you may think you know your niece. You may think you know your friend's little daughter.
Yes.
Unfortunately, what happens a lot of times is the kids seem to be okay. They're great during rehearsal when there's just a small crowd of people, but as soon as they walk into the church or the venue for the ceremony, all of a sudden they see all these people looking at them. Or they might see their parent at the end of the aisle and they want to run to them. So what I always advise is be okay if it's doesn't go according to plan. Because some kids really kids are kids. And, you know, just as we are fickle on certain days, so are kids. Sometimes they want to be sleeping. Sometimes they start crying.
Yes.
So to me, it's not a do or die type thing for a ceremony. You know, really kind of think about that element to have a young child be a flower girl or a ring bearer. They're adorable, and that picture really, they were spectacular, those two kids. But I have also seen, and I'm sure you have, where it does not work as planned.
No, you know, I remember one wedding in particular. There were two little flower girls, and they were coming down one behind the other. And as the first little girl was dropping petals, and the second little girl had a basket of petals too, but she instead kept bending down and trying to pick up all the petals that were dropped, like she was trying to clean up the aisle. It was really sweet. We have another picture. This one is one of my pictures. Oh, no, that's not the one. This one is religious ceremony. Yes.
Correct.
Oh, this is important. Yes. Because I know I've done weddings, interfaith weddings, where you have couples from two different religions, or no, they don't follow a spiritual path, or one does and one doesn't. What's the important thing to understand for this type of wedding?
We really, because we spend so much time with clients before their ceremony, we really try to understand what it is that they're trying to convey during the service and the ceremony. And ideally, if they are the same religion, that there is one officiant. And I'm sure you've seen, we've done some where there are multiple officiants to really accommodate the different religious needs. And there are ceremonial things that have to happen during the ceremony. There are prayers. There are all sorts of things that have to be done on a participation level. So really understanding what is the religious or even non-religious aspects of the ceremony that are important to the couple. And in this particular one, this was a Jewish ceremony, and as you can see, there's many elements that go into that we have to make sure are ready and available and have been thought out as far as timing goes before the ceremony.
And the logistics of everything.
And the
space.
logistics and the space.
That's important. Okay, then now here's the vineyard ceremony. I pulled one from a ceremony that I did. This was out at the Preston vineyard, and one of the things you and I had talked about was the idea of so many couples today dreaming about the outside wedding. Now you can see from this picture, it was a beautiful day. Oh my gosh, it was a gorgeous, gorgeous day. But it doesn't always work out that way.
Right.
So what's the conversation you have with couples when they're saying, I want an outside wedding?
Well, as you know, everybody wants perfection. And what we say is you'll have a perfect day if you don't expect perfection, because I think what that allows is that if you pick a venue, because you can have an outdoor ceremony, if it is torrential rain and you have to be inside, you need to understand what that alternative is going to be and be okay with it, because we can't, as much as we would like to, we can't control the weather.
Yes.
And we've been pretty fortunate with most of the weddings that we've done that have been outside, but we always have a rain plan, and we always make sure that that rain plan is going to be acceptable and understood by the bride and groom, because we don't want them to all of a sudden walk in and feel like it's not what they wanted. So it's a tough thing. It's tough because most people will pick a venue with an outdoor facility based on that.
Yes.
And it's very hard to understand that that may not be what you get.
Yeah, you have to be happy with Plan B.
Right, right. And usually the Plan B has to be called earlier in the day. So if you have a 5 o'clock ceremony, we may be making that decision at 3 o'clock. and understand that the logistics of doing that, you can't just in 5 minutes, change your mind.
No, if you have 200 chairs to be moved and set up, and perhaps a huppah to be moved or an aisle to be repositioned, yeah, you need time to do that. All right, we have another one. This one, one of your photos, fireworks at the Ocean House. And I remember when I looked at this one, I thought, how do you know for sure that the place is going to allow fireworks? I mean, is that ever a problem?
Well, obviously, anything that you do like that has to be approved, and the logistics are interesting. This particular one was fabulous because nobody except for the bride's mom and myself knew that this was happening.
Oh, what a surprise.
So we actually kind of did a little undercover work, and we talked to the fire marshal and we coordinated with the venue, and this was actually, the fireworks was done on low down on the beach. So we had to have fire trucks and the fire marshal, and all sorts of logistics have to happen for a very brief fireworks show. And we actually keyed into the band, so we had music playing while the fireworks were going on, invited all the guests out onto the deck for a presentation. They thought it was a toast. And then the music started and the fireworks went. So it was really spectacular. And
where is that?
I'm sorry?
Where is that?
That is the Ocean House in Watch Hill in Rhode Island. And again, the logistics were critical. I mean, we had to be in contact constantly with the venue and with the vendor and with the fire department in the town. So for a very brief presentation, it was fabulous. But a lot of logistics went into that and coordinating.
Nancy, you're good. You're really, really good. And I just want to say, too, if you're just joining us, this is Nancy Goldstein, Amazing Ceremonies. That's the name of her company, Amazing Ceremonies.
Amazing Celebrations.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Amazing Celebrations in Glastonbury, Connecticut.
Correct. And Boston. We have
You're in
two.
Boston as well. Oh, very nice. Very nice. Isn't that often the way things are, though? So much planning, so much the time, the money, the energy, the effort goes into planning something for something that is not going to last a long time in terms of minutes, but the memories. It's what I always tell couples, the memories need to last a lifetime.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
We have one more photo here that I want to get to now. Raw Space. These are banners. What's this all about?
So a lot of times clients will say to us, we want a unique venue. We want something that is not your typical. And that's okay, but there's a lot of logistical issues that go into that when you're trying to have a ceremony, feed a crowd, have a caterer come in, sometimes when there is no kitchen and they're actually building a kitchen on site. So this was a particular space in Rhode Island, and it was what we call a raw space. It really, there was nothing in there. It was an olfactory. And it was really perfect, ideal for the couple. This is exactly what they wanted, but we had all these massive white walls. And so actually those are banners that I made for the couple, and we just took some quotes that they liked and we put them on 14-foot banners and hung them in the space.
Nancy, that's beautiful. You know, when I see all of these pictures and I think about all the planning that has to go in to pull something like this off, the question immediately comes, how far in the process should a couple hire a wedding planner? I mean, somebody who does the full service like you do. When does that happen?
So as soon as they say yes to the proposal, they should be calling us. So before they call the parents and the grandparents, they should be calling us.
In the ideal world,
in the ideal world, because what we always tell people is really, if you are considering hiring a planner, they really should be almost your first call, because a lot of times people jump the gun. They get so excited they want to book a venue without even thinking about how many people they're inviting or what their budget is. Or they might book a band and not realize that the band is eating up a big chunk of their budget. So in the best world, the best scenario is that we're one of the first. We'll let them call their parents first, but we would like to be the second call.
Okay. You know, You mentioned a few minutes ago, and I wanted to get back to this, about the fact that when you're working with a couple, you are, you know other vendors, or if that you can recommend, or if you don't know vendors that the couple has chosen from somebody you don't know, that somehow I'm assuming that somehow you vet them, or you interview them, or you work with them somehow. What is part of that process?
So we have been fortunate that we've been in business a long time, that we have an absolute fabulous list of vendors that we have worked with over the years. Venues and DJs and bands and florists, photographers, lighting people, caterers, rental companies. That's one of the things that we pride ourselves in, that we have been able to really work on these relationships, so that when we are recommending a vendor to a client, we're pretty comfortable that they're going to be the right vendor for them. Okay. If a client says to us, we've already booked a band, or we've already booked a caterer, or whatever, we will work with anyone, and it becomes a process of just touching base and communicating and making sure that everybody's on the same page.
I think it's also, speaking from the perspective of a vendor, it's nice for me to know when a wedding planner is involved that somebody is coordinating all of it. Let me ask something, because I've seen this in two extremes. How involved do you find most couples want to be in the planning process? Is because I find sometimes it's every detail, they want to be involved in all the details, and sometimes it's I don't care, just do it and I'll show up, and tell me when to be there.
So we have all sorts of clients. We have clients who want to be involved every step of the way, and we have clients who will say, just tell us where we need to be and we'll be there, and you take care of all the details. It's really just dependent on the personality and the abilities of our clients. Whatever they want to do, so we work with.
Okay.
Right.
I'm going to ask you, this is what I think is a tough question, and you mentioned at the very beginning, one of the things you do is help a couple with their budget. And the budgeting and the question about nowadays, like who pays for a wedding, and I realize there's going to be a lot of different answers, but that whole process of the money and the budgeting, shed some light. Give me some
That is
here.
Probably the most difficult conversation that we have. It's one of the first conversations that we have, particularly with brides and grooms, if there are parents involved who may or may not be participating in the budget, in the financial backing of the wedding. Most people don't know what things cost, so very often our question is either how much do you have to spend, how much have you budgeted for this event, how much do you think it's going to be? It never matches. And so very often what we'll do is try to get to the point of what they're comfortable and able to do, whatever that budget is, and then work within that budget, because most people don't understand that every single thing that goes into that wedding has to come from somewhere. So it has to come from that initial budget, whether it's shoes or dresses or food or the bar, the band, everything has to come from the same pot.
I'm thinking two thoughts here right now. The comfort that a couple must have knowing that somebody is watching the drawdown, so that it's like, okay, we're not going to have like the surprise at the end, like, oh, forgot, there's $12,000.43 that you need to come up with. The other thing I'm thinking is, for those of you who are watching right now and you're thinking, I'm, halfway through the planning of my wedding, I've already made this decision, this decision, this decision. For that couple, what if they have already, let's say it's going to take a year to plan the wedding and they've already gone through the first 4 or 5 months. Is it too late for them to hire up?
We will tell people it's never too late, because a lot of times people will say, oh, I've already booked the venue, I've already booked the entertainment, I've already hired the photographer, we've already done everything. Well, that's a minute piece of the puzzle, because at that point we still come in and coordinate everything. If it's a band, what's their electrical needs, what's their sound needs, what's their space needs, what's their load-in needs, what time are they coming, when are they doing their sound check. Same thing with a photographer, what's all his needs. So Yes, they may have already booked vendors, but it's really our job to make sure that we have coordinated all the vendors' needs so that everything runs smoothly.
So, still on the financial end of things, and this is a public access show, so I'm not asking for specifics about money, but in a general way of looking things, how is a wedding planner paid? Is there a package price? Is there a fee per month you're involved? How does that work?
So there are many different options. There are some planners who will charge a % of the event. There are some who will charge per hour. We have decided for many years we do a management fee. It's a flat fee. You basically get us from start to finish, and that way we're working in the best interest of the client.
That sounds beautiful, and it also, I'm guessing there are going to be people out there going, oh, I just feel so much more comfortable having somebody do that. We have a couple other photos that I want to show if we can, and we'll go through them very quickly. We only have about 2 minutes. This one, signature cocktail. So people are doing signature cocktails now.
Very popular. We like to recommend it so that it alleviates the rush on the bar when guests are arriving. So the waitstaff is usually standing there offering a beverage.
Oh, how nice.
Quick drink.
Very nice.
Quick drink.
All right, and then we have one, wedding entertainment. The artist who's painting, throughout the ceremony? I mean, throughout the reception?
Throughout the reception.
Very
so this
nice.
is kind of a little entertainment, sign entertainment for the event. This was a gift that one of the guests gave to the couple, and it was just a great conversation piece. He was painting the scene of the reception, and it was given to the couple after the event.
All right, and we have one called Photo Shoot Vault. Oh, we have happy people here. Photo Shoot Vault. So we have 2 minutes, Nancy. So this is, I'm guessing we're looking for creative photo locations.
This is a lot of times...
Which you would know.
Right. And this was a venue, a location that was actually not the reception site, but this was where the couple decided to take some pictures before the reception.
Okay. And one more, lighting. Oh, no, this one. Well, lighting, yeah, that's perfect. That adds a lot, doesn't it?
Lighting, if it is able to fit within the budget, gives you really the most bang for your buck. It can really transform a venue and really tie all the decor together.
And one final one, here we have a couple being transported on a little cart.
So this was a venue. This was actually in Hartford at Trinity College, and the chapel was quite a ways to the reception site. So we actually provided golf cart transportation for the guests to get from one location to the next.
One last question. When you're working with a couple planning a wedding, what do you think surprises them the most?
How much things cost.
How much they cost.
And how many details go into. It's not just saying, oh, okay, we're going to show up. There are dozens and dozens of details that we take care of, and so they can just enjoy their fabulous day.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
Hopefully.
Nancy, thank you very much. And if you're catching just part of it, you can always see the show again on YouTube. This is Nancy Goldstein. She is the owner of Amazing Celebrations in Glastonbury, Connecticut. Fabulous wedding planning. I want to know more. I want to thank her for being on the show tonight. I also want to thank my crew, who's so helpful tonight, and I want to thank you and the viewing audience. You know what they say about love, what it does, so get out there and make the world go round. Join us again next time. Thank you.
Are you planning a wedding or renewing your vows? Let today's leading wedding vendors inspire and guide you. To learn about upcoming guests and join the discussion, like us on Facebook, Zita TV. Weddings with Zita is a program of Moon River Rituals. For more information, visit zitatv.com.